Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on the Monday. Of course, we are discussing all matters the 2023 Ross Winter Racing Festival. 25 races packed over 2 nights. Huge amounts of money were doled out. More importantly, huge crowd at Shelbourne Park. Some sensational racing. And I think it's safe to say it's Christmas. We are joined, as always, by the exile dub Tommy Lyons from his yawl base and Robert Catterson from what looks like the space station. Rob, is it?
Yeah, down in South Kildare.
This is Captain Tom. Let's get into it. Tommy Lyons, the Winter Racing Festival, formerly the Night of Stars, it has grown, it is getting bigger. We had two wonderful nights of racing. It can only be good for the game.
It was all right, wasn't it? Yeah, it was like so much money to be doled out, and there was a good divide of it, and there was a lot of good performances of dogs that you'd nearly, you know, maybe in some cases maybe half forgotten about or kind of put back a little bit in the pecking order and that sort of stuff, and they're coming through with huge performances, and that just tells me that they're ready for next year as well. Like so, like not there were two or three that I thought were absolutely like not only were they about this weekend, but they were about the future. I thought so. Look, it was quality start to finish. There were a few little upsets, and I don't think there's ever been a night of stars without a huge upset either, has there?
No, there's generally one thrown
Mm.
in there, but I
Mm.
think this is up there with the greatest upset
Yeah,
in the history of firstly the history of the Night of Stars, but perhaps one of the greatest upsets in the history of Greyhound racing. If you go back in recent times, obviously it's an upset because it was a 1-3 favorite the race. We'll get to it later on, but even the winner was the rank outsider or sort of second rank outsider of the field at a huge price. That doesn't mean now the connections didn't have a little nibble. I believe they did, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. Robert, you were there for all 25 races. You were there early on the Friday night, and you were there until the end on the Saturday night. You saw it all. You got to meet people up close, and I think this the sense of celebration and real sport was there.
Absolutely. Like we happened to go up to the restaurant on Saturday night at about 8 o'clock, and I have to say it was Derby final-esque. The place was buzzing. Everyone was in brilliant form. It was. I was thinking to myself, I'm in the wrong place. That's what I was thinking. It was the best view in the house. Everyone was having a great time. You touched on Friday night. It's the second year we've had the 2 night Winter Racing Festival. The Friday night has been a huge addition. And you saw the reaction and the reception that a lot of the winners on Friday night got. It was a great night for punters as well. Friday night, we'd 5 or 6 well fancied favourites that managed to win, but it's a proper festival, and as you said, a great way to celebrate the year.
Yeah, we won't spend too much time on Friday night, but it'd be remiss of us not to give it a mention, to give it a few of the races I mentioned. I'll just skip through the races pretty quickly, and we might stop and talk about a couple of them, Tommy, if that's okay. Firstly,
yeah,
a great start to the festival. I suppose the first night was introduced, so different people got to sample. A bit of success on the night, and €2,000 stakes through the night, 5 or 6 finals, and it was wonderful to see the first race won by Beatrice Steiner. She's sending out so many dogs in the last few years. She's in Mullingar there every weekend, and she has her fair share of winners at Mullingar. The odd time she's a winner in Shelbourne Park, but it was great to see her having a winner in the opening race. Sadly, her other dog, Fox, actually got knocked over in the opening corner. I hope he's fine. Rumor was that all the dogs got a bit of trouble on the opening night, came out okay. Vet dealt with them. But Jax Vivienne doing the business for Beatrice Steiner. It was just a great way to start proceedings. Then into the 5-2-5 final. This was won by Silver Strand, another member of that very fast litter. Droopy Sydney, Jet Ski Queen for David Murray and Alan Devine. As I said the other evening when doing the parade, I think they kept every one of the members of the litter, and they've been richly awarded. Every single one of them are mini open or open class, and I think they'll have a fair bit of sport with them next year. It's only December whelps. Scotty Scheffler, I thought this was a massive run. Robert, you were there, looked well and truly beaten at 4-6. He was seen as the banker by many. I thought he had to lead. I think most people thought he had to lead. He came from fourth or fifth place after a bad start to get up in the line, and I think that really got the crowd going. Started the night.
Absolutely, yeah. Like he's a big name. Like we were chatting beforehand. He was a dog running in an A2, A3 final who got to the third round of the Irish Derby 2 months
Yeah.
previous. A great bit of placing, I suppose you could say, if you were a horse racing trainer. But as you said, after 5-6 yards, you're saying, God, this lad's in big trouble. And in fairness to Beatrice, obviously she had the winner of the first. When I was chatting to her, because she'd runners in the first 3 races, we got to Bayonet, and she said, this is actually my best chance of the night.
Yeah.
And for 500 yards, it looked as though she was right, like she was spot on. But yeah, he's a class dog. And I know he was running in a grade lower than what he is, but you know, he's one of those names. I think a lot of people who were in Shelbourne Friday night, if they were never greyhound racing before, they were back in Scotty Scheffler, because
you're a golfer, and like you can't help but just stop for a second to take a look at him. You know, that's the way it works. You know,
and that's it. Listen, he showed his class, and as you said, showed an awful lot of pace. You know, he's going to be running back in open class company. But yeah, as you said, it started a trend for those who made a few quid on Friday night.
Yeah, Delightful Lizzie won the novice 750. She flashed out. She led all. She has a little bit of age on her side compared to some of her rivals. Big eye catcher here was Stepping Out Julia, who got badly shuffled back in the opening corner. And yes, she finishes 4th, but I think it's safe to say she'll win plenty of races over 6 bends in the future. Have no doubt about that. On to the 5th race, the Old Stagers. This is where the class really started to tell. A Hawkfield Ozark, a classic winner in Ireland, Robert, a Laurels winner in the UK this year, and it was no surprise to see him winning at 8-11. Away and gone, and as you said, well received by the punters.
Yeah, listen, it was a great race. The Old Stagers, to me, was one of the highlights of Friday night, because it wasn't a veterans race. It was for greyhounds who were maybe getting on a little bit, but running well. But as you said, like this lad was the class act, Sprint Cup champion last year. All he had to do was come away well enough, and once he did, you know, it was straightforward. 28.
Game over, ball burst. On to the 6th race. It was the one I declared as my bet of the night. Thankfully, she obliged. Forest Willow returned at 8-11, having been 6-4, 11-8, backed into 5-4 during the day. It was over as soon as it started. She came away racing, and once getting the better of Ballybock Carroll into the opening corner, raced out a 6-length winner in 28-29. This was a bitch with plenty of back class. We knew that run was coming. She'd shown plenty of pace in the semi-finals after a missed start. On this occasion, did everything right, and a good start to the meeting for Peter Cronin. A lot of other news. Won the Open 525 final, Tommy. This was the Mini Open 525. Sean Conway. We've been saying it a few weeks now. We've mentioned it a few times. His dogs are absolutely purring, and this was a pure display of efficiency.
Yeah, it was an excellent performance. It was nearly the perfect performance in terms of popping out. There was, like you were talking about, Forest Widow. Forest Widow just got the bend, you know, the full length at the bend. A lot of other news got it quite comfortably, I thought, and won well. I think a lot of people are in the same camp as you, Ian, in terms of Forest Widow, thinking that was the bet of the night. And but I just loved, and it's just reiterating something you said. I love the spread of winners on this night. And like you're talking about $2,000, $2.5 to winners. That's proper money. Like to A3 dogs. Yes, there were mini opens and opens in there, but like that's a great opportunity. No, it's not. You know, it's not comparable to Saturday night in terms of the overall quality and the money that's involved. But geez, there's still huge pots for dogs to win, and for owners that we don't see at the a lot of them, we don't see them at the business end of classics and the like. So I think it's a huge thing. It's more of a purist night. Let's be honest. It's more of a purist night maybe than Saturday night is. But that's what it should be about.
Saturday night, I would declare, as like, you see the Breeders' Cup in America, and the Saturday is the one with the classic and all that, the big ones. Whereas the previous night it's a chance to spread it around a bit. You know what I mean? And yet, like, they're still festival winners. That's the beauty of it. Whatever about the $2,000, $2.5 yeah. But you can say, yeah, our dog won at the Winter Racing Festival, and that means a lot to people. It's like having a winner on Derby final night over the years. Like, some of those nights, the races were only worth 500 or $1,000, but like, it's still Derby final night. When it comes at the end of the year and we're talking about Dog of the Year, Sprint of the Year, Stayer of the Year, if they've won on Derby final night, it's almost like winning a championship race. Now we have the Winter Racing Festival. It's a championship race. These races matter when it comes down the line, as you say, when you're deciding on, the big guns for the year.
Well, you're kind of ignoring a lot of the people involved in the game if you decide that, okay, we're only just going to put a night on for the elite. So this is huge to have two nights, and it is a good spread of money. And yes, it is, like, it's still fiercely competitive, but I just like it for a lot of reasons. You definitely have to kind of, when you look at something, you have a night of stars. It's a great concept, but this was just the addition of this is just so important. In my opinion, it's so important because it's got that spread. I've never had a greyhound that's even would have been close to getting into this night, let alone the night of stars. But you can aspire to this, and maybe on the step to that, maybe sometime if you're very lucky in your lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. It is worth pointing out 13 races, 13 different winners. There was no doubles on the night for any owners or trainers. Great to see. As you said, spread the money around, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, a lot of other news, brilliant. Kapuka Warrior was very good. Nomadic Nova, again, Tommy showed his class in second spot. He had a lot of pace, this dog, but what do I keep saying? It's those first 3 or 4 yards. He was actually desperately unlucky. He was clipped from behind on the opening corner, or got done and then got clipped, and all of a sudden finds himself lengths behind. He shows all sorts of pace. He is potentially one of the stars of 2024 if he finds his trapping boots. That's the frustrating thing about him.
Yeah, that is, like, he got turned sideways at the first bend, really, and to be beaten half length was a huge effort. He is, and you're kind of going. I like the fact that they're persevering running him at the moment in terms of picking up that experience, but that seems to be what he lacks. He seems to, I think if you can run him at that level, it's mini open levels. You can run him for a while and get that experience into him. Obviously, he's going to be going out of that level, but if you can run at that level and pick up the experience, and maybe it start to click with him, because potentially he's obviously top class, but he has a bit of an X factor about him. It's just we'll talk about him probably early next year and just see how quickly he can develop into that. Because how many chances do you give him? I don't know.
Yeah. He could easily turn into an Easter Cup dog.
Yeah,
that's how good he is. Yeah.
yeah.
We have to mention this. Your best friend in the whole wide world, Carl Ramsbottom, had the winner. Robert, the first man you go to every time you're looking for an interview. In fairness to him, it's an easy interview. It's a case of point and shoot.
Yeah, well, in fairness, he wasn't there on Friday night when I went looking for him, so Eugene Price had to do the chatting. And in fairness to Eugene, no one had a double on the night, but if anyone got close to it, was him, because obviously he had a winner later on. But yeah, Kapuka Warrior, he was a dog that Carl thought a good bit of. He won a good stake down in Kilkenny earlier in the year. Obviously went up to Shelbourne, tried his hand in the Derby. He hasn't really been up to that level, but listen, he got his big win. But just on Nomadic Warrior, just to follow up what you're saying.
Nomadic
Nova. Yeah, he's definitely a dog who's just coming to I don't know. I think you're right in saying the more runs he needs, the better. Like, he won the first round of the Ledger in 29.73, coming from off the pace. I think you're right. Easter Cup, maybe even Gold Cup beforehand. Like, I was looking at the betting for the Irish Derby next year. I think he's in the top 10 or 12. He hasn't gone under the radar, but he's got to get things going early.
Yeah, I think Damien must be listening to us. Moving on to race 9 on the card. This went to Boyle Sports Coco, Dolores Ruth, John Boyle. It's great to see John with a winner. Like, I know John's not short of a few quid. The $2.5 wouldn't have made a difference to him, but he puts a lot into the sport, Tommy, and it's important for Boyle Sports Coco to land the spoils for him. This was a bitch we thought an awful lot of earlier in the year. She's had the little dalliance now with sprinting, and she's back to the 5.25. And by all accounts, we could see this one improving enough over the winter. She strengthened up a little bit. I think she could certainly turn into an Oaks contender.
Well, this is a fabulous performance because she role model took a flyer and was maybe 2.5, 3 lengths in front, and she joined her down the back and had a real set two from there, but then found extra off the side. This was a monster performance. This is definitely a potential Oaks type performance, or performance of a bitch that might be that level next year. And just on the John Boyle thing, like, he puts the money in because he loves the sport, loves Greyhound sport.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So it's like he's doing it as a fan of the sport. So yes, like any other owner, you'd wish him the best of luck in terms of, and it is good that he pick up a race. The money is inconsequential. It's actually the sport he's in it for. So it's always been the case. So yeah, fair play. And I tell you what, he's got a proper bitch in Boyle Sports Coco.
Yeah, well, of course we have to say that anybody who's in Greyhound game for money, probably in the wrong game. You'll be better off in the stock market.
That's true.
I think she's going Christmas Oaks is the plan, I believe.
Yeah, well, she's only come back from season prior to the Fair Warrior, so she's probably now reaching her very peak. And Dolores, like, you don't need to tell Dolores it about the game. She knows it backwards, frontwards. She knows how to deal with one. And yeah, I think she's a leading contender, certainly for the Christmas.
Like I would have had Boyle Sports Coco down as a bitch that had massive early pace and mightn't be the strongest home, but this was definitely a step forward in that sense. Like, you're beating role model. That's a proper bitch.
It's probably after her first season, and you often do find bitches do strengthen up, and that could be well the case. Moving on to the 10th race in the card, Unanimous Kai. This has all the hallmarks of a dog who wasn't highly tried prior to racing, wasn't overly schooled, took him a race or two to win. He won the unraced stake at Shelbourne Park and then was thrown in the deep end against some really good dogs and got a bit lost. I thought this was a fine display by him the other night, and a display that said to me that there's plenty more to come from him. Robert, he's a nice type, Unanimous Kai. Just don't be surprised if we see plenty more of him next year.
Absolutely. 7 races. That was the second win on Friday night. I think it might have been Pat Buckley's only runner, although they might have got in with another reserve. But yeah, this is a dog going places. Still relatively young. He's what is he? January 22, so he's just about eligible for the Kirby. But don't be surprised if you see him in a Gold Cup beforehand. I'd say this is a dog going places.
Yeah, no question about that. Tommy, I'll let you talk about the next winner, because a man you regularly talk about, Ken Bustede. He does the miles, and these are the men that deserve a payday. Ken Bustede has never been afraid to jump in his van and drive up to Shelbourne Park or anywhere, to be honest. And Capitan Garfio was the personification of his normal professional self. Ballymun Boy ran a big race in second spot for Peter Sutcliffe. He missed the kick, and I think we saw another string to his bow here, Ballymun Boy. He had no right to finish as close as he did for a dog that we've seen in the past, flashing out, showing great early speed, not getting home. I think there's much better to come from him. Don't be surprised if he produces a huge run in the near future. But Capitan Garfio, great winner for Ken Bustede.
Look, it's brilliant. It's brilliant because, as I say, you said he does the miles. I mean, and he's good to he helps out a lot of people down south, in terms of traveling to Shelbourne Park. It's never. I'd say his van is like his office. I mean, that's where he spends most of his time. Seems to be on the road the whole time. Like this is a Liam Dowling dog, a Ballymac dog, isn't it? Ballymac Mick is what it was originally.
He's a brother.
Called.
He's a brother to the 2 Derby finalists. Ballymac Finn and Mary's.
Wedding.
Mary's wedding. Oh, God. Yeah. Brain fart.
But but like what a joy to come across a dog that'll win 16 times, and then I mean to get a $2.5 grand little pot on top of that there the other night at a big festival, as you said, Ian. I think it's a great result. Yeah, Ballymun Boy is a smashing dog, and it was a huge effort in defeat. There was tremendous early pace in the race, like Bob says, Sid is in there as well. It's a really good, really competitive open 5-2-5 in the night. I just delighted, of course, with a bit of bias for Ken winning it, because he puts in so much effort right throughout the year in, year out as well.
And I had actually put off someone backing him at the start of the night. I just thought he was a little bit off the boil. And the 28.73 suggests he's probably not where he has been. But, I've no doubt that the enthusiasm and the ability is still there. He's probably just a little bit out of form at present. And yet, he's after winning, as you said, in 28.73. Because I have no doubt that he'll be back posting 28.23 next year. Such is professionalism. And you know exactly what you're going to get with him. He's going to get out. He's going to run hard. And if a dog beats him, it beats him. But he'll run his race most times, as you can see by his record. 16 wins, 4 seconds, 7 third place finishes. That's just an unbelievable record. He's only been out of the frame 10 times. Moving on to the final race on the card. You mentioned Eugene Price there. Eugene and Colin Rosbottom was great pal, had a great winner in Penny's Links, a half brother too, of course, Susie Sapphire, trained by Rosemary Price, Eugene's wife. And Penny's Links is a real powerhouse. Obviously, this race sort of fell in. This isn't the Fanatic, of course, it was 13 races. This was a race that somewhat fell into his lap a little bit. Azurite was challenging Dramana Dano into the third bend. Dramana Dano, again, outrunning his price. Every night, they seem to just underestimate this Greyhound. I thought he was running a big race. Now, as it was, he was 92. He was a shorter price than I actually thought he was. But Azurite just got up his inside at that third bend, and she's marked awkward. They hold her card for one trial. I think this has all the makings of a bitch that she just has lacked a yard to the bend, and she's been finding plenty of bother and trouble. I just think this one night she just took it out, a little bit of frustration. I don't think we'll see that from her again. I'd like to think, I'd hope so, but I think she certainly want to keep an eye on in the future. But Penny's Links was in the right position. He's so powerful, Robert, and he ran out a tremendous winner.
Yeah, and there seemed to be a right few quid for him as well. I think he was 2-1 9 the morning. I think he went odds on at one stage. I know he returned 11-10, but he'd been a bit eye catcher over 5.75. I think that the run before, they were stepping him back and tripping. In fairness to you, we hear Carl Ramsbottom put his neck on the line. He basically said, if this lad gets a clear run, he'll win. Yeah. And when I was watching the rerun on RPG TV, as soon as he said that 7-4 into even money, a few people listened. He was talking about a dog the night before that won a 750 that he'd sold.
Looks a really, really nice stare. He won 41.39. Something or other, I think is his name. I can't remember his name, but he looked a really good stare in the making. So it was a good weekend for Eugene. He was buoyant in himself. He was wearing a lovely suit on Saturday night. I said, "Easy, no, you sold a dog on Thursday. You got a few quid last night."
Yeah, and good to see him with a winner at Shelbourne. Like obviously he's the man who's dominated Newbridge obviously all those years. You know that the pennies prefix is well known, and he's up there most Saturday nights. You know, as giving Carol a bit of moral support. So
moral support, as in someone have a few pints with.
Yeah, and put on his bets. But it was good to see him have a good winner with a good dog.
Yeah, he's a fast dog, Tommy. He's a dog you can have a bit of sport with next year. 550 yards, 575, 600. Looks natural for a Shelbourne 600, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I just to go back to Azurite, which is very. It was. I don't know. I haven't watched Azura's previous runs, but it just seemed very strange. Like it was just a little snap at the third bend on the just before the turn bend, and it's really weird because it's just instantly gone. Like it's not like the way sometimes you see dog carry another one right off the track. Now, yes,
I've seen it plenty of times, and this type of incident normally happens with bitches. You know, it's just the case of, it's almost like, when you have an argument with your wife and she throws away a comment at the end that cuts you in two, right? That's what it's like, and then off she goes. Right?
but just let him keep talking, Tommy.
It just we should let him talk and see where that goes. But I just think it was like it's like it's like something like say you're playing soccer, somebody stands on your heel, you turn and say you turn and say it was like that more than, because it didn't seem like there was intent all the way up. Yes, she was moving out and they were both running wide down the back. Just all of a sudden it was just a little snap at the third bend. That's it. Like that's it for the whole rest of the race.
Yeah, you might never see her do it again. Anyway, Penny's Links, cracking dog. Look forward to seeing him next year. And then getting to the final race in the card. Tommy, we all want to talk about this. The wonderfully powerful Ryhope Beach. I came to the conclusion, the closer the race came, that I said, this fella's an absolute certainty. Like, he's an absolute certainty. Now, he was greatly helped. Let's Go Bubbles, who was likely to set the pace, and just, she took a flyer, but then stumbled straight away. And all of a sudden, Fashion Model found herself in front. But Ryhope Beach, with Doc Technic Diva in 5, who they have up for sale, actually. She's going into Greyhound Trader sale soon. She's going to make a cracking stare across the water, you'd assume. But she doesn't have the early. And all of a sudden, Ryhope Beach is able to turn nice and close to the pace. This race was over at the second bend, and it's testament to Fashion Model that she held them as well as she did. She's a very, very fast lady for next year, no question about it. One to keep an eye on. But Ryhope Beach, forget about trying to hold this fella.
Yeah, look, the Fashion Model is only a March pup and entitled to improving. But Ryhope Beach, you've been waiting a while for this, and you've been talking about it long enough. If it didn't win, I mean, I say you wouldn't have turned up this morning. You would have said, "Look, Rob, you might take over there." Poor old Barry Call might have got dragged in.
Having spoken to Barry yesterday, he was a bit like myself. I'm not sure he'd be ready to do this morning. We were both shook, shall we say? We celebrated the occasion.
And rightly so.
Ryhope Beach, Robert, he was just power packed. He was everything you expected him to be when he gets the run around that second corner. And we'd like to see more of this from him. Hopefully this gives him a bit of confidence. He looks another natural for the Shelbourne 600, you'd assume.
He does. Listen, it was a good final, but he was the star attraction in the final. Like, you look at his year, got to a Kirby final. He posted a really good run the first night of the Irish Derby. They tried him down in Limerick. Things didn't really go to plan. But as you said, it was just a case of this lad getting a run. And not only did he get a run, he came home on his own.
Yeah, 3 lengths in the end. That's testament to Fashion Model and how strong she is. Yeah. She certainly is one for next year. And Doc Technic Diva was only 4 lengths behind them, absolutely motoring home. As I said, she's going to make a cracking stare in the UK. Now we're nearly half an hour in, and we haven't even mentioned the second night. Let's get into it. And so to the second night of the Winter Racing Festival, gentlemen. It's been said I use the term sensational all too often, but I think Saturday night racing could certainly be described as sensational. Robert, you were on the ground, just race after race, performance after performance. It was just unbelievable.
It was, and even beforehand, in fairness to Michael Dempsey, when I was chatting to him before, and there was so much excitement about Saturday's card, and I sort of put it to him, is this the best night of stars or Winter Festival card we've had? And he says, we say that every year.
we do. Yeah. And you actually look back at the cards and go, God, that was a great year, and that was a great year. But this was a great year. There's no question about it. But it's gone to the stage where you can you can't really differentiate them because there's so few weak points in these cards.
Yeah, no, there was like 3 or 4 mouth-watering races. Now, I know they didn't turn out as we were all sort of hoping, but a little bit like Friday night as well. There was a really good spread of winners. I know when Graham got to win number 3, you're saying, right, he's going to have maybe 5 or 6, but it sort of stopped there. Really good flow winners. Good to see the Dowlings back with a winner on a big night. A lot of their dogs ran well. Nice spread.
Yeah, I thought the Dowlings dogs were running well, no question about it. Tommy, from your vantage point, just great viewing, I'd imagine.
Yeah, quality, and I think that Seven Beach set the tone really well on the night. Thought that was a serious display, and he's one of the dogs I kind of alluded to at the start. Dogs you kind of nearly forgotten about, and all of a sudden you're going, hold on a second, now this could be a proper dog for next year. And I tell you what, if the miracle comes off of winning the Derby 3 times in a row, this is the one that's going to do it for them. This is a dog that's maturing. Do you know what I mean? And maturing, and like obviously it's a huge task and all that sort of crack, but like I love that performance. I actually stunned at the SP. Now I look at not this that always sounds like half the time, but I'm just surprised it was that big. I mean, I know the draw wasn't ideal, but like we had seen real ability in him earlier in the season, real ability like earlier this year, and I just thought that was what a way to start the night.
I mentioned it to Barry Call prior to racing. It wasn't actually this race. It was about the National Puppy Stake final. I said, when the big guns, the two that are seen as the two to beat, are side by side on the inside, I always try and find something on the outside to oppose them with. So I had a couple of nibbles in Seven Beach and actually Jatara. I thought Jatara ran a fine race as well after getting, a hefty bump on the opening corner. So too did Seven Beach. But I agree with you, Tommy. I think this dog, Penny's starting to drop. The signs were there. Like I know it says he's beaten 17 and a quarter lengths by Dale Road Duke the last night, but it was a huge run to the third bend. He checked and lost his stride at that point. And obviously he was straight back a couple of weeks later, 28-28 trial. And the other night, 28-13, no question, the performance of his career. But he is a dog who could be anything in next year. Didn't happen for Dale Road Duke and Jack Tavern both. Strangely for both of them, they missed the kick, which is unlike them, but a big run by Seven Beach. It was a great start to proceedings, Robert.
It was, and just Tommy took the words out of my mouth. When he won the race, I was like, it's like I didn't even see him, that way, because he's a dog with huge pace. When he won in Kilkenny in a charity meeting in mid-July, the clock that he did to the third bend was the fastest ever in Kilkenny. I remember Tom Canaan saying after, like, this is a dog with raw pace, and Tommy could be spot on. The O'Donnells are going for 3 in a row, and who's to say this lad won't be a big one next year? But yeah, you're right with the big two. Like we were all focusing on Pat's and Graham's big two in 1 and 2, but so many times when they're drawn. Now I know the two of them missed a kick, but so many times you sort of let them blur your vision, and we certainly did that. Like when you see Seven Beach 12-1, you're saying, God, why didn't I do something?
Yeah, the problem is you can't back every one of them at big prices because you know what I mean. There's a few short price ones too. One of the short price winners was in the second race. That was the This Runs Deep Festival 350. Balnakill for the Pillar Syndicate and Graham Holland. And this was the start of the night for Graham. He had 3 winners, as you said, Robert. Balnakill again, didn't have a flying start, but certainly not as slow a start by any stretch of the imagination. He was in a lovely position at his corner, aided by the fact that Road Exile completely missed the kick. And when Cree Jojo, who's returning after a bit of a layoff through injury, ran wide around the opening 2 bends, Balnakill Alf was already in the perfect position. He was probably going to challenge anyway, but just opened up in the inside, and his pace and his ability to run a corner at such speeds is pretty emphatic. I thought this was a brilliant performance. I thought it was a huge run in second by Carrick Aldo as well. And Road Exile were third. Form guide on top of the card, 2-4-1. They finished 2-4-1, Tommy. No surprise, I suppose.
Oh, the surprise at the top of the card getting it right. The Ballykill, it was a great run. Was this the deepest race in the entire weekend? I mean, in terms of pure quality. I mean,
this and the 550. This and the 550 would probably, the 550 was very deep.
Well, this race said to me, what would Cree Jojo be? I know his track record in Limerick, they're one of the nights, but like, what would it be if he got a clear run, injury-free run? How good could Cree Jojo be? I mean, immense ability. You're talking about Ballyhill out, Carrick Aldo, we have Road Exile, Pavilion Fire, who actually popped out, and Pavilion Fire won the Fair Wire, I think, did he?
Yeah.
Like the quality was there, and the Cree Jojo showed insane early pace. Ballykill Alf is a dog that we've kind of puzzled at a little bit over the last while. Not a surprise to see him pick up a big pot because his ability is there. I assume it'll be a case of back to 5-2-5 early next year and the like and drive on.
Yeah, who's to say? They have plenty of options with him. I'd say he's a dog who, as you said, could be a dual dog next year, 5-5 sprints. I don't think we'll see him in a 550, but who's to say? You know what I mean? He's a dog with huge ability, no question about it. A big run. I'm looking forward to seeing Carrick Aldo again next year, be it over 5-2-5 or or sprinting. Who knows? Maybe 550. I don't know. Didn't look like he'd be stopping over at the line in Cork. He's a very, very talented greyhound, no question about it. Sadly, we don't have much time. We have to skip through. The third race in the card was the Champion Bitch 550. This was a new enough race to the calendar. It was thrown in. Was it 2 years ago, Robert? The first Bitch 550, and I was fancying Easy Razzle from the draw. As it was, Droopy Zadell did cut in, cost her. She took a tumble on the corner. She got up and raced on. She was fine. But Easy Razzle and Annual Coco couldn't get there. And instead, it was Ballymacvida who set a very strong gallop. One of Liam Dowlings who ran very well, but not for the first time. She just didn't quite get home in the 550. Balnabola Una certainly did. She's third down the back straight, still third at the last bend. And when Ballymacvida and the tiring Undisputed moved off, Balnabola Una had room up the inside and she powered home. She gets there by a half length in the end, pretty comfortable. A bitch that'll certainly stay 575 and 600 next year. This is their replacement for Bobsleigh Dream, you suggest, but a great performance by Balnabola Una.
It was, as the commentator said on the night, is Ballymacvida a sitting duck, and she was because of Balnabola Una. This is a bitch who flies. We saw her in the Irish Derby. She loves Trap One, a little bit like Ben's Teddy. And yeah, she's one of the big ones for Buckley's next year. She deserved this big win. Like, she's been sitting at the top table for the last number of months. And while it was a really good race, she was definitely one of the ones to beat. She just needed to get a clear run. Everything went right. She got her perfect pitch coming off the second bend. And yeah, she can do it over a lot of distances.
This is what I would describe, Tommy, as a Michael Fortune type bitch. He'd love her. A bit like Cool Survivor, really see out the trips really, really strongly. Is trappy enough that you can get involved in good company, but one that you could be tempted to run over 750 down the line.
Yeah, I don't think she needs to go that far, but it's not impossible. I suppose it depends on how the early part of next year turns out for her and what sort of success she has over 550. I was saying there about a month ago that I think she's a bitch that's going to develop quite a bit early next year and could be anything. Really could be anything at all. I think she's got, like, she didn't break again the other night, and we don't have her down as a breaker, but there is that ability in there. If you could just see a bit more of it. I was like you, I fancied Easy Razzle from the draw because I thought Annual Coco would move in, Druby Zadell would move in, there'd be loads of space, and if she could just break, missed it a bit, and then moved in at the bend and got herself into all sorts of trouble. But Balnabola Una probably had no entitlement to win it from where she was, even down at halfway, probably 5 lengths off the pace at halfway. Undisputed, I think, obviously, to my mind, is obviously needed another run or two.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I was looking at her as a potential to win the race, and then I thought, one run back and maybe another one needed, another couple needed on that. Actually, she ran a big race, but just as you said, she kind of faded a little bit. I was surprised actually she didn't get third. She just faded a bit late on. She's not a good bitch, but I think Balnabola Una has potential to be even better than this. That's 29.66 over 550. It's pretty good as it is.
Coming from 5 off the pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a consistency at the traps a little bit more, and she's capable of breaking. I'd just like to see it, but I think she can develop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned the 600. I think Toaster is going to suit her down to the ground.
Yeah, and as you said, Pat is making the trip this year. It'll be a case of whatever's fit and ready will be on the boat, and you'd assume Balnabola Una, if there's no season dates or whatnot. Now, it probably does clash with the Oaks. I'm not as au fait with this year's calendar as I was, or next year's calendar as I normally would be.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's right. The Oaks is right in the middle of the English Derby. Yeah.
Listen, he's gone for the English Derby over the Oaks before. Bobsleigh Dream ran in the English Derby rather than the Oaks. So we'll see. One of the performances of the night for me was Ballymac Walt in the Resets 550. These still the $5,000 races. This was Ballymac Walt at his very best, Tommy. I actually thought he was in the process of taking a false step off the second bend, and I was thinking Miami King is just going to shoot by him here. He just took off again down at the third bend. This was all the signs of a dog who really is just now starting to get it. He was highly trialed early going in the Juvenile Classic, and he won the champion plate, and he was very impressive in that. And I thought this dog has Derby claims, just didn't look right in the Derby, just was running the bends like a crab. 29.29 in cold conditions in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. Just looked like a dog that is now really starting to find himself.
Yeah, and I think you said it. You said it in commentary too. I think he kind of, he back to his best. He just looked in sensational form. Because it was a good race. He's a dog that he's probably not going to benefit by the fact that the Derby is late next year, because he'll be 3.25, maybe riding towards 3.5 by the time the Derby's on next year. But like, he's only had, I think, 19 runs or something like that. This was a huge effort. 29, as you say, in the conditions. Yeah, there were some good runs over 5.25, but like, that's the equivalent of a 27 something run based on the night that was in it. I think it's a huge effort.
Yeah, massive run. He is the type of dog that, again, will rock up for an Easter Cup. You could see him in Toaster. You could see him running at Race of Champions down Tralee, those sorts of competitions. The 550 run up in particular does seem to suit him, because he has the early speed. Whereas if against the razor sharp ones over 525 yards might be a little bit found out, but over 550s, not too many to lead him to the third bend. Clonru's Sydney running on very strongly for second, and Miami King was third. Miami King is a nice dog, one to look forward to again next year. So too Clonru's Sydney, I'm sure we'll see him have maybe an attempt at 600 as well. Onto the Winter Racing Festival Championship 525, and yeah, a term I've used a few times already. Professionalism, Tommy. High Trend is not just professional. I thought this was his career best run. I thought he was good through the laurels. I think this was very much his career best run. Do you know what? When he won the laurels, I went, that was a fine display. He's a nice dog. I'm not sure he'll win much more after this. I'm not so sure now. I think he's razor sharp. I really like this run. I thought it was absolutely just everything you needed. He made a good field look slow to the corner.
Look, it's funny you say that. It's 100% what I thought watching that race. I actually wrote in my report this morning too that I thought it was his best performance. Looked better than ever. I thought that, like, I was like you after the laurels. I was kind of going, yeah, well, he has explosive early pace. He kind of half didn't miss it really, but he just didn't fly out in the laurels final. And I thought, yeah, that's good. And he's a dog that can develop, but he needs to, is what I was thinking. The same way as you are, that if he's going to win something else, or he's going to have to develop again. This was it. This was it, in my opinion. Now I know that some of the shrewd lads and were fancying him and thinking that Ballymacfean would step off a little bit out of two and give him plenty of space up the inside. I understood where they come from, but I still wasn't convinced enough to back it, and it was available at 3-1 in the morning. High View Splash is a dog that you just love to give him a length of early pace to see, just for him to show you what he's capable of every single night. And Hawkfield Blue ran a cracking race, but High Trend was just, like you said, utter professionalism, out and gone, and had this race put to bed by the first bend. And I actually like the fact that when Hawkfield Blue showed a lot of pace in the middle of the race, although he never really looked like getting to the winner, I like the fact that High Trend strode out strongly to the line. That's more than I've seen from him ever before. That's why I'm in the same camp as you. I think this was a career best and a dog that's going to go places.
Yeah, like 550 won't stretch him next year. I'd imagine, another little bit of strengthening up in him, and Graham go to work on him over and he's bred to stay, beaming smasher. Like, there's plenty of stamina in that line. Robert, he was just a very impressive winner.
Yeah, not much more to add. There was maybe 2, 3, 4 races over the 2 nights that after 5 yards, you say this is all over. And this was one of them. Like, he hit the lids. And as you said, Ian, he put a really good field to bed early on. Fairness to Graham, he seemed to be fairly sweet in them before, and I don't know if that was the case of maybe he was in one or just that he thought the dog was coming to handy. 2 good trials at Shelbourne after winning the laurels, but he showed that the laurels was no once off, and I'd say he's one of the Holland runners early next year to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, he's a real Gold Cup dog.
Yeah.
He really is a nailed on Gold Cup dog, no question about it. And then they could well take their chance in the Easter Cup, we'll see. Behind him, I thought Hawkfield Blue ran a huge race. I couldn't fancy him from the draw. He was 10-1 for that reason. I think he showed once again that he's a dog capable of really dining at the top table in 2024. Obviously, he won't always have trap 5. When he's in 1 or 2, he can do a 28-16 run. He already has 28 seconds in his card, so just keep him in mind. Ballymacfean, High View Splash, Halo, Deadly Jet, a top quality field. I'm sure we'll see more of them in the future. On to the 750, and this went to Garfinny Blaze. This was a race that was really decided at the opening corner. Sadly, we didn't get to see the clash. It says here Juby's Clue knocked over. I didn't actually have him knocked over. I had him sort of belly flopping, but I didn't think he rolled. I don't think there's any sand on his back, shall we say. He never got a chance to run. He actually made up unbelievable ground. Like, it says knocked over. He's beaten only 6 lengths behind Pablo Escobar. I can't have that as a knocked over. McNeil set a strong gallop. Garfinny Blaze was left second when the remainder all sort of found a bit of crowding. In the end, Garfinny Blaze was just too close. Another member of this brilliant, strong staying later, Ballymac Anton, Ballymac Merkel. The riding was certainly on the wall into the 5th bend, and he duly came through the win, Robert.
He did. This was the one race I thought we were going to get the race of the night, Ballymac-esque Sparta Maestro all those years ago, Ireland against England. And after the first bend, neither of the big two were going to win. But in fairness to Garfinney Blaze, you know, he's been knocking on the 750 door for quite a while. I think he started off in that Kilkenny unrace at the start of the year. Graham stepped him up in trip fairly quickly. He'd won a couple of rounds of the Cork Cullen. He brought him over to Perry Bar and then brought him back here. Real good dog, but yeah, we just didn't get the big matchup I think we were all hoping for.
Yeah, he had to be pulled out in Perry Bar. He picked up a small niggle.
Yeah.
He looked a major player in there, St. Ledger. And again, just these things happen. Garfinney Blaze, Tommy, real strong runner. Again, you know, you just wish there was more six-bend opportunities for him, but a dog that could target all the major staying events next year.
Yeah, look at the race here changed quite rapidly. I mean, he was last out of the boxes, last up to the bend. There was all sorts of crowd. Kinturk Road didn't break, was in amongst the trouble. Drubby's Clue, like it was like a horse rearing up and going back down and nearly back down his haunches completely is what happened, and somehow managed to get himself back into stride fairly quickly. It was just a shame that the way that the whole race panned out. Fair play to Garfinney Blaze, nice bit of tracking as well as stamina shown to win the race. I wouldn't take much from him. You're still trying to pick up McNeil. It's good quality racing. It's just a shame the way that race turned out. I'd be happy enough to knock it over with Druggy's Clue the way he went backwards and on his haunches. I'd be happy enough with that.
The IGOBF National Puppy Stake was the seventh race on the card, and you know, YI Bonnie Lad is a dog who is certainly developing with each run. Tommy, like High Trend, I think this was a career best display. He was 15-8. I favoured him purely because I thought he'd lead, and I certainly wasn't wrong there. This was absolutely razor sharp from a young dog who certainly knows the game. He knows what it's about. He has terrific early speed. He does a fine split. He does a 15.81 to the third bend. Like, that's top class. He's coming home, you know, albeit nearly 12:30s. You know what I mean? He's not the strongest, but by God, he can run. This was a hell of a run by a dog who I was inclined to sort of go, yeah, he's a nice sort of dog. I don't know where he'll end up, but I just wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being like a Laurels type dog next year.
The more I watch Robert Leeson's dogs, the more I think he's really good at letting them develop themselves on the track rather than rushing them as pups. You know, you can get overexcited and see a dog that's doing something at home before it ever races and push to get it doing fancy times and all this straight away. The more I see of his dogs, and I think he's building a really good kennel at the moment in terms of quality. I think this was a smashing performance. Not a huge surprise in the sense of 198 has 197 on his card already. But like I was looking at the race, right? And then, of course, when you're not in Shelbourne every week, you kind of think it's a disadvantage not to be seeing the dogs live, to be quite honest about it. But like, I was kind of struggling with where I was going to separate Scooby Countess and YI Bonnie Lad. And I struggled with it. And then I was talking to some of the shrewd lads about they were saying to me that the Donnelly Fred dog could lead from the outside and was probably a bit of a value bet and all that. Sure, the value bet was gone the second YI Bonnie Lad flew out and Scooby Countess missed it. It was just potential, I suppose, that the inside pair might come together, but that was over in a stride. This, I'm 100% agree with you on this one. This is definitely a step up. This is better than it's shown before. This is the dog that I had with early pace and limited stamina. Now I have a dog that okay, he's not at the moment. He's not, he's not flying home by any means, but I think there's a little bit of strength coming with each run. That's only run number 11 or something, was it?
Yeah,
I think it was run number 11. So yeah,
most importantly, win number 7. You know, that's the remarkable. I kind of took away from it that obviously he's a dog that's developing, but I also that just, even though Robert Leeson's been around a while now, and it shouldn't be taking me so long to figure these things out, but I just like the way he's developing dogs at the moment. He's developing as a trainer. Like, he's still a relatively young man. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
The beard might tell its own story, but he's definitely a young trainer with a very bright future. An advertisement for Ballymac cash out. I'm sure Liam Dowling is happy to see that. He's throwing a few fast ones. Robert, this was, as we said, professional as ever. Just a really fine display from a dog going places.
Yeah, you said his early pace is one of his best traits. His consistency is incredible. Like, you look at his last 7 races at Shelbourne Park, those sections, dogs don't break 2 seconds anymore, and he's managed to do it twice in the last.
I'm gonna hold my hand up here now. Like, I think the judge was a bit he might have been having a jar or something. You'd be clicking with the mouse because it came up at 2 seconds on the
It
infield
did.
clock.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
yeah,
it was down as
right.
198 on the card. So obviously when he's doing it, he wasn't looking out. He just clicked and probably put it out 2 or 3 inches or something because it was 2 seconds on the infield clock. So I'm going to put him down as a 2 seconds rather than 198. That's all I'm saying.
Well, 2 seconds is fair going too, you know.
Yeah.
But no, is it like it's his consistency? And I think, you know, I think you said it going into the first bend. You said something along the lines like he just never misses the kick. And I said it to Rob afterwards, and he said pretty much the same. Like, you know, like when you have a dog in such a big final and your main danger is inside you, you need to hit the lids, and that's what he done. Jennifer's bitches run a blinder, probably more of an inside seed, I'd say, rather, or a middle seed than an inside seed. But you know they're going to have a great year with Scooby Countess next year. But be interesting to see where they go with this lad. You think the Gold Cup is an obvious one, but it's only 2 months away, and he's a young enough dog, so I'm sure Rob has a plan already in place.
I'd say it's safe to say we'll see him in the Kirby. The second place went to Doonan and Ellie Fred, Damien McGinn and Donan and Richie have a nice one. I'd say they're sick of the sight now. Why Bonnie lad, he runs them down to a length and a half last week. He's beaten a length and a half again on Saturday night. You know, but for a Why Bonnie lad, like they have, you know, we're talking about him in the same sort of terms. He's a really nice dog. A son of Druby City, January 22. He's a wide seed, so more often than not will have his draw. I think there's plenty to like about this fella. Must give him a mention. And I thought of Murrah Hertig. He's, again, we spoke about Unanimous Kai, a dog who did a flashy run early. You know, in his first race, 28.45, it was rated 28.85 minus 40. That should have been minus 80 that night. I'm just putting that out there. Like, it was a hell of a run. He was thrown in the deep end since then and sort of getting the hand now. Thought it was a big run by him the other night. He's only beaten 2.5 lengths. I think he's crying out for a slightly longer run up, 550 yards. I think he's a really, really fast dog to look forward to for Eamon Reynolds and the new owners, the FOMO 5 Syndicate. Keep an eye on him, Hertig, named after a legend. Who knows? He could turn into a bit of a legend himself next year. Let's move on. The 8th race in the card, we alluded to it earlier on, went to High J Muzzy, owned by Stephen Marr and Jason Meredith, but it was very much a great victory for Orla Kelly and Jimmy O'Hanlon as well. They would have bred this lady, and Jimmy was leading her up, and he said to me that they took a few quid. It was fancy prices, needless to say. I think it touched 150 in the exchange, because Hegarty said he laid it at 33-1 on site, and I think he said I backed it back at 150, which is not a bad way to do business. But High J Muzzy, listen, this race was decided in the opening corner when Ballymac-Katie, she was actually, you know, to use the old phrase, she was away too well. She was in a lovely pitch. She couldn't get across High J Muzzy, so that was shuffled back a little bit. And then in the process of being shuffled back, she was clipped on the heels. And thereafter, just never really got going. I just wonder, maybe she might have tweaked something or whatnot. In the end, Hookham said a blistering gallop. Look, for all the world he was going to win when he entered the back straight, but I'm afraid the wheels fell off. Stamina just ran out, and High J Muzzy, well, she was running as hard at the line as she was at any point in the contest. Really stayed on well, as did Peter Sidney. Of course, Peter Sidney is a half brother to a previous winner of the race, Dana Point. But High J Muzzy, 40-1, Robert. But you got to say, there was nothing really lucky about this. It was a fine performance.
It was. Jimmy had said on Saturday night he backed it at 50s. They all backed it on 33s on track. So it was no wonder Hegarty was laying off, in fairness. Like a fascinating race. When you look at the result and you see Hookham finish fifth, you're saying, oh, how did he finish fifth? Or if you didn't see the race, you'd say he obviously didn't fire. And this is a dog who'd won over 750. It was a fascinating race to watch. Like, he must have been 10 clear at one stage. But just at the fifth bend, he's just started to tire and the writing was on the wall. It was a little bit like crisp and red rum. You sort of knew what was coming. And yeah, listen, great winner.
Well, you'd remember that. Myself and Tommy wouldn't remember that, you know.
I've only watched replays. Yeah, listen, it was the real local, the big local win on Saturday night. And it just shows you this 850 test. You know, we were talking about Hookham winning over 750, but that extra 100 yards just shows you how much of an extra 100 yards is. But great scenes. Jimmy was delighted, as you can imagine. You know, when you see the SPs are the first two, I don't know what the forecast paid. Don't even know if it was one, but I wouldn't have minded a couple of euro on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Tommy, it's amazing how often these races can change. The extra 100 yards is all important.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. I'll tell you that, like I say, Hooker was definitely 10 lengths clear at one point. I tend to agree with you too. I don't think Ballymackaty was at her very best. Whatever she might have tweaked or might have done, I'd say there was something simple enough, I would suggest. And Chestnut King, who has a track record, I don't know, still has he? No, he hasn't.
No, it was broken
He
by
had the six,
Blackstone Lacey.
yeah,
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 Lacey.
yeah, sorry, recently had the 600-yard track record in Limerick. He was rattling home. I mean, another 100 yards would have done him making 950, making the old Ted Hegarty
You know, it's
marathon.
funny. It's funny because I did a bit of work on the race prior to it, and I had him down as a dog that would probably struggle to see it out. Now he's bred to see it with Reds or Ruby on the dam side. Like that's
Yeah.
like she's throwing nothing but stairs, and yeah, I was a bit surprised to see him running on as well as he did. I suppose when you don't do it early, you'll do it late, and he got involved
Yeah.
in that early scrimmaging, and he was doing his best work late. It was an intriguing contest, but the plaudits go to High J Muzzy, $5,000 in the bank, few bets landed, lovely.
There's a great place for that race on like on a card like this. There really is. I mean, people might say, "Oh, that should be because we don't get too many 850s. It should be on Friday night." No, I think that's a great addition to the night.
Well,
And in fairness to her, I think she's 3 years of age. It hasn't been straightforward with her. Obviously,
no.
Obviously she's come into season a couple of times, but they've obviously had some sort of issue with her. So to do it at the age she did, fair play to them.
Yeah, imagine they'll probably have a crack at the Shelbourne Marathon, will they? They have to have. You'll have to consider it. Hi, Jay Muzzy, winner of the Retired Greyhound Trust Stairs 850. Well done to all involved. On to the ninth race, the Winter Racing Festival Championship Bitch 525. This is up there, Tommy, I think, with the performance of the weekend. This was simply stunning by a bitch that is now vying for the title of fastest in her litter, which at one point looked absolutely nearly impossible. Droopy's Flightline, her litter brother. This lady is going to be every bit as fast, if not better, than their dam, and that's saying something.
And it's funny what you're saying because I wrote in my report this morning that this is arguably the performance of the night. This like the trouble she got when being forced to check at the first bend and the pace she showed down to be in front by the third bend was phenomenal. It's rat down Molly, a bitch who has held her form brilliantly well all season, from being second in the Gold Cup to run her heart out in the sprint in Dundalk to going to the Laurels and running her heart out and winning did she win the consolation Laurels? I think she did.
She did, yeah.
Like she's been in brilliant form and she's about 4 clear out of the second bend and Droopy's Mandolin runs her down by the third bend and does 28.15.
Tommy, before the race, I tell you, Rathdown Molly's going to do a 2 seconds or a 2:01 or a 2:02.
Yeah.
She's going to be 4 clear into the back straight. She's going to do 28.25. Right. Unload.
you wouldn't have said then if you gave that, you wouldn't be saying, well, the one that's going to pick her up is going to be Droopy's Mandolin. You'd be saying now Droopy's Mandolin probably needs to get out in front and because she might move off a little bit from the draw and the whole lot. I mean, the pace from 2 to 3, having to recover from checking very wide at the first bend, I was blown away by it. Thought it was huge. And again, it's Robert Leeson. It's another advertisement for his ability as a trainer. I think she was, and she's a bitch that's been busy. She's been to Perry Bar. She was after winning the Galway Oaks the previous week. She's been kept reasonably busy, and to do that performance, this to me was the performance of the night.
Yeah, absolutely stunning performance, Robert. I want to mention Alan Pat Dobbs. Obviously, Pat is a champion jockey. Alan and himself, they decided a couple of years back, let's buy some of the best pedigrees and see how we go. They have been richly rewarded. To have one brilliant bitch in last year's champion puppy stake winner, and now Droopy's Mandolin to also arrive. Like that's unbelievable stuff. And in Droopy's Mandolin, they potentially have one of the best of recent years.
Yeah, from up the style to Droopy's Mandolin. Alan was there on Saturday night, and he sort of said, I'm sort of pinching myself. It's all well and good spending this money and buying the best bred greyhounds in town, but that's only half the battle. Like, you need so much to go right to get to this level. You need a good trainer. You need to be lucky that dogs don't get injuries and stuff like that. But you need to have a dog who's able to step up to the plate. And, I'm echoing everything Tommy said. That pace she showed from the second to the third bend, like, it's not often performances blow you away. I think that blew everybody away. And now she's arguably the best bitch in training.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many people that would argue. She now boasts a record of 11 wins from 14 starts, and there was a couple of unlucky runs in there. She's just a remarkably fast lady, and one that I cannot wait to see in action again. Did Robert say whether he'd be considering the Christmas Oaks, or is she going to put her away?
Yeah, he didn't say. I got the impression he's looking to next year with all the big guns. He didn't mention the Christmas Oaks. I'd say on the back of Perry Bar and Galway, I'd say that's probably the end of it for the year. But we'll know over the coming days.
Yeah, we sure will. Let's get on to the Winter Racing Festival Championship 550, and a dog who I spoke to Kevin Hutton briefly after racing, and we got down to the fact he had Jetstream Angel running the bitch race, and he said it's very tough. These one-off races, you need to be absolutely razor sharp. He said, "Our bitch, having our first look around, you have no chance. You do need to be absolutely tuned to the moment for these one-off races in particular." And Another Holiday was exactly that, tuned to the minute for this. He'd been taken out of the ledger a couple of weeks ago. Michael obviously had a little niggle there. Let's get him ready for the Winter Racing Festival. We saw him in the opening round in the Ledger. We saw him in the opening round of the Derby. Absolutely flew in both of those nights. He's a dog that loves to run fresh and well in himself. And this was Another Holiday at his very, very best, Tommy. He's razor sharp, we know. And this really was him at his best. He needed to be, because this was the deepest race in the whole festival, no question about it. Like, when you consider the rank outsider, well, it was Another Holiday. Like, that says it all. Clonbrine Treaty's not returned 10-1. I'm not having that. I think the betting is a bit all over the shop in this one. But it was a remarkable run by Another Holiday to lead as comfortably as he did against this field.
Yeah, look, he's a dog we've been talking about having the ability to win a classic, but maybe not the constitution to do it through over the course of maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And that might be the issue. That's what the evidence is on his form, his card. It says that, like, he can do it early, and I thought in the Ledger maybe he's coming right, and maybe he will be able to get through the Ledger and win it. And he had to be pulled out late on. Was the semi-final, was it? That was desperately unfortunate. But, like, I think it's the same as you were saying, Ian. I'm saying it in my report this morning that like the couple of weeks off actually did him the world of good, because he loves to come there cherry ripe, and he's beating a top class field. Trinity Junior back to his best. Bob said Dream is there running a huge race. It's Swords Rex, the Laddie Da, and Clonbrine Treaty. I mean, it doesn't get an awful lot stronger than that. That and the sprint, you're right, were the two strongest, deepest races on the card. I thought it's a huge performance. He's a 12-1 chance again, and I didn't back him. I didn't have any bet in the race. But you could see you could definitely make a case for him, because we have talked him up as a dog of the potential to win a classic, but just maybe not going to get that kind, or not going to be able to do it 4 or 5 weeks in a row. He's a terrifically fast dog, and much deserved, I would say.
Yeah, much deserved. Yeah, fine performance. 12-1. In hindsight, this is one of those hindsight ones. But when you look at the race itself, like, you can make claims for every one of them. But 12-1 did seem a little bit big. Robert, Another Holiday, just professional as you like.
Yeah, no, he was brilliant, and fair play to Michael O'Donnell to get him back a couple of weeks after taking him out of the Ledger. It was a brilliant performance. You said at the start, after chatting to Kevin Hutton, it's very hard to get these dogs ready for these one-off races. And I think that's probably counted against the likes of the Laddie Da. He just missed it early on. Just things didn't go his way. And listen, we've seen him come from nearly last in the past to pick up big dogs, but he wasn't going to be able to do in a race like this. Trinity Junior, despite the fact that he never had to be beaten only half a length, and I suppose if there isn't a lucky story, it's probably Bobsleigh Dream. She probably broke too well, as Pat Buckley said afterwards. She's run a blinder. Just at the third bend, it didn't go our way. She's beaten less than a length, but listen, we were hoping that we would get a real good winner, a real good finish to this race. We all billed it as the race of the weekend, and I think we got all of that.
Yeah, just like you point out, even the likes of the Laddie Da, who I got stuck chatting and drinking with the owners after racing the Young Garsons. They're living the dream. For the two boys involved, it's their first dog. I said, lads, you're goose. I said, like, you think this is easy. This isn't easy. But, as you said, Robert, like, coming back after no run and whatnot, impeded start, crowded one, he's beaten a half length of neck, a length and a length. Like, he's beaten less than 3 lengths. You know what I mean? It's a remarkable run. Swords Rex is beaten a length, a neck and a half. Bobsleigh Dream is only beaten a half and a neck. Like, it was so tight, like, the small margins and whatnot. But no, a great field, and we look forward to seeing them all hopefully in action again. Potentially, I don't know what the story with Swords Rex is. Whether we will see him next year, I don't know. Whether they have another race or two this year, but it's been great, and hopefully this isn't the last we see of him. On to the 11th race in the card, and certainly one of the real standout performances of the weekend. Ben's Teddy. Just an absolute powerhouse. We've known that for quite some time. I was willing to oppose him in Limerick, but in Shelbourne Park, it's a different scenario. He really is a Shelbourne Park Greyhound. He loves the place. And into the corner, he just found himself in a perfect position. And when Droopy's nice, when going up fast on the outside, when she stays, her normal line, middle wide of track, Ben's Teddy just runs the most remarkable corner. Like he makes up 2 lengths in the space of 5 strides. And Tommy off the second bend, he was 100-1 on.
He ran like a cat. We just the race was over quite early because he turned so close. Then he railed like that. He is definitely a Shelbourne Park dog, no doubt about that. I wouldn't agree. I had a conversation with a couple of lads on Saturday morning talking about this race. I wouldn't agree that Blackstone Lacey doesn't produce at Shelbourne Park. I just think she was a bitch going the right direction, and that she had hitting form, and it was going to be a cracking race, and she was the bit of value, I thought. Maybe against Ben's Teddy just because of the prices, but she got into all sorts of trouble early. But there was depth in the race. You had Droopy's nice one, like Gay Time Hugo, Milridge, Bryce, and Opti Chico. Like, it was a proper race. But Ben's Teddy, who I did feel that he's definitely better in a track like Shelbourne, whereas Blackstone Lacey, I don't see any reason why she wouldn't be at her very best there, won't produce her very best there in the future. But he is just a class act around there. And when he turned close and the way he railed, I mean, it was Droopy's nice one that was in front of him. I know she stays a middle to wide course, but like, she's a classy bitch, a real top bitch, has been on the go for a long time, producing really good form, holding form exceptionally well. And he just railed, and all of a sudden, goodbye. I mean, the fact that she stayed to 5 lengths probably was a good performance, and that's not putting her down, because when Ben's Teddy gets clear, and they've always said, Ian, I think I mentioned it before, Connections have always said about Ben's Teddy is he needs racing. He absolutely is one of those dogs that improves when you keep him going, because he gets tired of being at home jumping around and wasting energy at home. He wants to be out on the track, absolutely racing hard, and that's his. You'd love to see him keep going now. Don't know what there is in terms of
that's the thing. Like, you would love to see him just continue.
Yeah.
Again, we're probably not going to see him too much more until probably Easter Cup. That's the sort of times you're thinking about. But no, just a real powerhouse, no question about it. I don't think we've ever had a track record at the Winter Racing Festival. This is about as close as we've ever got, Robert. He's 1 spot off the clock. Like, it was just an absolutely massive run.
Yeah, and testament to the track. We had some really good runs on Friday night, but the fact that the track was running so well, I think, is testament to the work they've done, because it was cold conditions Friday night. They put the covers on. I think you said at the start of the show, there wasn't, all greyhounds who ran on Friday and Saturday night came through, and that was the main thing. But yeah, listen, this dog he's a superstar. He's been one of the stars of the year. I'm a big fan of him, but I have to say, on Saturday, I thought he was going to have his work cut out to win this. I was a bit disappointed on the week previous in Limerick. He'd formed to overturn on Blackstone Lacey and Gay Time Hugo. You were saying he was 100-1 on off the second bend, passing the winning line first time round. He was odds on, because he was just perfectly. I don't know what the sectional was, but I'd say arguably he'd one of his best breaks yet. When he gets on the fence, he's such a good railer that he was just, barring accidents, and real good dog. They were real disappointed on Derby final. Like, we'll never know what would have happened if he didn't get checked at the third bend. We'll never know. He'd have gone very, very close. It was a bit of consolation for them, but I'd say next year, they've a big few months coming up. You've got the Easter Cup that you mentioned. Straight after that, you've got the 600, and straight after that, you've got the English Derby. Now, that is a lot for any dog, but as he said, this is a dog who thrives on racing. So I think if you're looking at a dog to maybe take into 3 of those next year, and Paz obviously suggested he'll go to Toaster, I think Ben's Teddy, he could have a big couple of months between March and early June.
Yeah, the one thing about him is, like, given his racing style and his power and pace, he probably isn't a dog that takes an awful lot out of himself. Certainly over 525 or 550.
Yeah,
600 is a different test, obviously enough, and two or three of those runs can certainly leave a mark. But no, Ben Steady, just a brilliant performance. Druby's nice one. Just what needs to be said about her. She's just been a star for them from start to finish. She's basically on the go since last January 2022, and she has danced every dance. And yeah, she continues to perform at the highest level. Gaytime Hugo ran well in third, and we'll see plenty more of Blackstone Lacey. We're not done with her yet. Let's get on to the finale, and a great way to finish off proceedings, Robert. He'd been a Derby finalist, Music Glide Away. He had run well down in the Ledger, but this was him at his very best. He always loves the 575 run up. I don't think it mattered about the long run up this time, because the way he trapped, if he'd been trapping like that every night, like, this is a dog who is Derby pace. This was probably as well as he's ever trapped. This was over after 5 strides.
absolutely. You mentioned Ben Steady, the real good run. This is what, 10 spots off the clock for 575. Like, to do that in early December is serious going. And this lad's record over 575 is incredible. He's now 4 from 4 over 575. He done some good runs earlier in the year, but yeah, like a real good field. Many made Sober Glory one of the bets of the night, including myself. Ballymacmarino was bang there. He looked well positioned. The Dowlings dogs running well. Lotto, other news, Beepers, Larry, Chesterfield Breeze. But this was over after a handful of yards, and he's done it really well. Great for Pat. He's hit the crossbar a lot this year. And I'm sure he was disappointed when this lad got beat on Derby final. And he was a bit unlucky down in Limerick as well. But really, really good performance. And the second Derby finalist to win on the night.
Yeah, I was going to say the Derby form is holding up. I think that sort of goes without saying, Tommy. The very nature of the Derby, the very nature of the Derby. For the second year running, Pat Guilfoyle bringing down the curtain to the Winter Racing Festival. He won with Magical Mary last year. This year it's Music Glide Away, and Tommy, as emphatic a winner was the whole festival.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is obviously Lotto 6-1 missed the kick in 6, and Music Glide Away broke out of 5 and just stepped to the right ever so slightly. Showed terrific pace. Once like it obviously, like you're saying, it's not the run up because it broke, but I think it's the traps and it's what they're seeing in front of them and how much they're seeing in front of them that is helping Music Glide Away. So, and helping break as well as everything else. And it might just be being a little bit further away from the crowd and the whole lot. All these little things can make a difference. Music Glide Away was exceptionally good, and Ballymacmarino ran a super race. I've missed a kick and actually having to drive into the first bend to kind of almost push Jetstream Breeze and Sober Glory out of the way and move into third place, and then forced to check outside Beepers Lariat to go a wide line down the back. Ballymacmarino ran a cracking race, but and at the same time didn't lay a glove on Music Glide Away. That'll tell you how good the performance was by the winner.
I think Ballymacmarino is very close to being back to something like his best. I thought this was an encouraging run again in defeat. It had been a very encouraging run the previous week, but yeah, Music Glide Away he just didn't leave the door open. He does 18.26 to the third bend. I was wondering the other night if that was about the fastest we've seen to the third bend. I often equate the third bend over the 575 to the sprint. Because you often find like really fast dogs get loose on the bunny. Like they do an 1850. Like dogs that are 600-yard dogs will do an 1850 sprint, and you see them get loose over the 600 yards, and they do an 1840 or an 1845. So it's obviously very close in terms of the measurements to the third bend. He did 18.26 the other night, which is unbelievable. And I think the only dog to better it was in this race last year. Balnabola Ed did 18.24. But if you remember that night, Balnabola Ed took a flyer, got loose. I think he was 5 clear on the opening corner. It just goes to show how fast Music Glide Away was running. And again, if they can just bottle that start, they're going to have a serious classic contender in 2024 with Music Glide Away. And a great way to finish off what was a wonderful festival, Tommy.
Oh, it was class. It was class start to finish, and loads of performances take away from it. Not least that and Ben's Teddy when they're rattling the clock. But I just Druby's mandolin for me over the course of the weekend. I was just blown away by that performance. I thought it was absolutely that's out of the second bend, particularly when you haven't got a clear run between the first and second bends. To do what you did to a bitch as good as Rat Down Molly and Matt Rat Down Molly, like second in the Gold Cup, what more do you need? To do that down the back. That was my takeaway from it. But it was brilliant. It's tying in like I never like to be drawn into, was it the best winter racing festival, or is this the best night we ever had? Because I don't know how you compare them really and truly, and there's always going to be a recency bias. Because you remember the ones that are running at the moment, or in the last couple of weeks and the like. So I do think that our depth of quality that we've talked about is borne out in a night like that, where you could argue that a few of the races were the race of the night, or depth wise the race of the night. To me, it's the 550 and the Sprinter, the two that stand out. But the performance was Droopy's Mandolin.
Yeah, I think that's two for Drubby's Mandolin. I greatly respect the runs of Ben's Teddy and Music Glideway, particularly in the last two races. I thought they were absolutely stunning, but there were unbelievable performances throughout. But I'm giving the performance of the weekend to Drubby's Mandolin. How about yourself, Rob?
Yeah, it's very hard. Like what she done up the back straight was, a lot of the times your eyes don't lie, and I think that's the case with you too. It was brilliant. It's very hard to put I suppose one above the rest. Like you look at Music Glideway and Ben's Teddy, two of the races of the night, and they've both won by 5 lengths. Two incredible performances. Tommy said that the sprint and the 550 are probably the two deepest races on the night, and they're probably the two races which held its form. Like you look at the sprint, 6 top class sprinters, but maybe the best 3 sprinters finished first, second, and third. That suggests it was a real good race. But yeah, I was picking out my moments of the year on Friday, but it's hard to pick one over the other. Just incredible, 12 incredible winners and 25 great winners over the 2 nights.
Yeah, no, a wonderful weekend for Greyhound sports, certainly at Shelbourne Park. And I think those present would have taken plenty away from it. I think there's plenty of people at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night that were obviously winter goers, like celebrators, sort of people from work nights out, family nights out, and they're going, oh, this is great. Geez, we must come back to Shelbourne Park again. Now, if they arrive on a cold Thursday evening sometime, they'll probably be in for a shock. But I'll tell you something, on a night like this, Shelbourne Park is a very, very special place. You said something there, Tommy. There was a time where the Night of Stars, it wasn't seen as an afterthought, but it was like just a little cherry on the top. Now I think people are realizing we could skip this and just get them ready for the Winter Racing Festival, a €10,000 race. And I think the trainers are now getting used to it. It's firmly entrenched in the calendar. It's a huge. It's arguably one of the most important dates in the entire calendar, and I think the level of training sort of excellence on show with all the winners was very evident. There was no lucky winners in sense where most dogs arrived there in the peak of their powers and ready to perform, and that can only make for a better festival. A great initiative, and long may it continue, gentlemen. Thanks very much. Tommy, before we go, I know you have to plug a big night coming up with y'all again. Y'all leading the way with these big nights and a big community night.
Yeah, we've had 2 of them already this year, Ian, and they were a huge success. It's just drawing in a big crowd. And we have on the 18th, this day fortnight, it's basically that Santa Claus is coming to y'all, is what we're kind of pitching it as. They're going to have a grotto with Santa Claus in. There's going to be a little present for all the kids that come along. There were a huge crowd of children there at the last meeting, Halloween. It was a great success, and in fairness, there's been such huge effort put in by the Track Supporters Club to do this. We're not blessed by being a track that has no real choice but to be a bags track just for the survival of the track itself. You're kind of caught up between what you can run, when you can run, where you can run it. So you're limited in the choices of what you can do for a big night. So the efforts that have been made by the track supporters and the response from people coming to it has been immense in those 2 nights. So hopefully, please God, that will be open into the future, over the next few years. There are plans to kind of do this on a regular basis, maybe 3-4 nights a year, and have a crowd coming in, and maybe it'll get a few people. Maybe we might decide, you know what, I wouldn't mind getting involved in a little syndicate here and coming out the odd night. It's a bit like you said, Ian, about arrive to Shelbourne Park on a winter's night. It can be a difficult kind of a night to put up with the cold and the likes, but you get great sport and entertainment from it. And I think that there was such a big crowd the last couple of nights. I'm expecting a huge night on the Santa Claus night, which is the 18th of December. And hopefully anybody who may be watching this, it might be within the vicinity, the kind of west or kind of West Waterford kind of area, or all the way up to Cork City and the like, might come down and support it, because we have had really, really, really good nights. And if you look up on social media, you'll actually see the photos from the 2 nights this year in Youghal. We kind of had a celebration of past winners in Youghal, and there was a huge crowd for that. We had the Halloween night, there was a huge crowd for that, and we're expecting the same. It will be a cold night, so wrap up warm. But Santa Claus will be there for all the kids, and they have the usual stuff, the face painters and the like, and balloon artists and that, who've been a great success. They've worked harder than I've ever worked in my life for those couple of hours on the previous night. So I think they can face into another night like that. So yeah, the 18th of December, come along. It is great. It will be great crack. I promise that.
A lot of finger work for those balloon animal artists.
Oh,
I don't know if it works with mittens. It'll be tough for them. It'll be tough for them. No, listen, again, it's all about a sense of occasion. That's what our tracks are there for, to get the community involved,
yeah.
for people to come down and enjoy top class racing at its best. And indeed, a night like this where it's more about the side attractions for the youngsters, but there'll also be some good racing to look forward to. But no, well done. And again, December 18th, the all track, if you can get down there, well worth the trip. Robert Denton, from yourself?
No, not a whole lot. I think Tommy might have sold that to me. It might be a good reason to bring the kids in a couple of hours in the car. So won't be surprised if you have a couple of extra visitors, Tommy.
Robert, you're bringing a group to Shelbourne Park soon.
Yeah, we're going Friday night, sort of a Christmas night out. Usually it's the Boar's Head, but we thought we'd go to Shelbourne on Friday night. A few of the lads haven't really been greyhound racing before. They think it's easy. I will mop up. Yeah, I always do 1, 2, 3 reverse trio, and it always comes up. So we'll see how good they are on Friday night. You never know. You might even pop down and give them a winner or two.
I might. The Dublin journalists, the Golf Societies, and that is they're arriving.
Yeah, there's 15 or 16 of us. We have a kitty over the last couple of years. It's not gone as well as it was. We got a trip to St Andrews out of it a couple of years ago, but the winners haven't been coming as much. So we said we'd rather than try and reinvest it over Christmas, we said we'd have a night out.
Say yes, St Andrews, Shelbourne Park. Much.
There you go.
Anyway,
two of the great venues of sport.
Thanks very much, Robert. Thank you, Tommy Lyons. Thank you, one and all, for joining us as we look back at another tremendously successful renewal of the Winter Racing Festival. It seems to be getting bigger and better every year, and I certainly can't wait for 2024. Who knows? It could be the bright and new shiny Shelbourne Park. Now, that is an occasion to circle on the calendar. But that's it from us on this Monday evening. Well done to all 25 winners at the festival. Bring on 2024. That's it for us for a week or two, but keep an eye out for plenty of content. Myself and Robert were recording a few bits over the weekend, and hopefully that's something that'll keep you going for a week or two. But that's it from Talking Dogs on this Monday evening. Good evening, good luck, God bless.